The psychological scars went far beyond the battlefields, too. Veterans returning home often suffered from what we'd now recognize as PTSD, but which was then called shell shock or neurasthenia. For many gas attack survivors, certain smells or weather conditions could trigger panic attacks years later. The smell of cleaning chemicals, fog rolling in on a quiet morning, even the scent of freshly cut grass could send a veteran into a spiral of terror as they relived those moments of choking helplessness in the trenches.
Ow!
I want to talk about something that might make you uncomfortable. The scientists who developed these weapons. These weren't cartoon villains twirling their mustaches in secret laboratories. Many of them were respected chemists who genuinely believed they were serving their countries and maybe even shortening the war by developing more effective weapons. Fritz Haber, the German chemist who pioneered chlorine gas attacks, was later awarded the Nobel Prize for his work on synthesizing ammonia, which revolutionized agriculture and helped feed millions of people. The moral complexity of these individuals is something we're still grappling with today. The irony is that chemical weapons, for all their horror, didn't actually change the outcome of World War I. The war ended much the same way it would have without gas: attacks through attrition, economic exhaustion, and the entry of the United States. All the suffering caused by chemical weapons didn't shorten the conflict or provide any side with a decisive advantage. It just added another layer of horror to an already horrific war. By 1918, both sides had developed increasingly sophisticated defenses against gas attacks. Gas masks had evolved from crude cloth bags to complex devices with multiple filters and better sealing. Artillery tactics had adapted to account for gas-contaminated areas. Soldiers had learned to recognize the signs of different chemical agents and respond appropriately. In some ways, the chemical arms race had reached a kind of equilibrium where neither side could gain a significant advantage through gas attacks alone. But the legacy of WWI chemical weapons extends far beyond that conflict. The techniques and knowledge developed during those 4 years would resurface in World War II, in conflicts throughout the 20th century, and even in modern terrorism. The Geneva Protocol of 1925, which banned the use of chemical weapons in warfare, was a direct response to the horrors witnessed during WWI. Yet the protocol had loopholes. It didn't ban the development or stockpiling of chemical weapons, and many countries reserved the right to use them in retaliation. Here's something that might give you chills. During World War II, both the Allies and Axis powers had massive stockpiles of chemical weapons, including agents far more deadly than anything used in WWI. The main reason they weren't used wasn't moral qualms, but fear of retaliation. Each side knew the other could respond in kind, creating a kind of chemical weapon that prevented their use on the battlefield. Sadly, this didn't prevent the Nazis from using chemical weapons in their systematic murder of civilians, which was a different kind of horror altogether. The scientific knowledge gained from WWI chemical weapons research also had civilian applications, both beneficial and terrifying. Many of the same compounds used as chemical weapons became the basis for pesticides that revolutionized agriculture. The nerve agents developed during and after WWI research became some of the most effective insecticides ever created. But this dual-use nature of chemical knowledge also meant that the expertise could easily be turned back to weapons development. As we wrap up this dark journey through WWI chemical warfare, I want you to remember that this isn't just history, it's a warning. The same human ingenuity that can cure diseases and feed the hungry can also create weapons of unimaginable cruelty. The chemists who developed chlorine gas, phosgene, and mustard gas weren't monsters. They were people much like us, working within the context of their time and circumstances. That's perhaps the most frightening lesson of all. The reality of gas attacks in World War I was worse than any movie could portray, more terrifying than any fiction could imagine. It was the moment when humanity crossed a line that we're still struggling to step back from. Every time you hear about chemical weapons being used in modern conflicts, remember that it all traces back to those first green clouds. Drifting across the battlefields of Belgium and France over a century ago, the soldiers who survived these attacks didn't just carry physical scars. They carried the knowledge that human beings could create such weapons, deploy them against other human beings, and justify it as necessary for victory. That knowledge changed how we think about warfare, about science, about the very nature of human conflict. And in many ways, We're still living with the consequences of that first terrible decision to open those gas cylinders and let the wind carry death across no man's land. Thanks for staying with me through this difficult topic. I know it's heavy material, but I think it's important we understand this history, not to glorify it, but to learn from it. If you found this informative, let me know in the comments what other dark historical topics you'd like me to cover. And remember, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it.